Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and I got a hot one for you all today. I am a big purveyor, if you will, a connoisseur of data collection and gathering. I love being able to not only gather data, but to extrapolate it, compare it, and filter it, amend it, if you will, and essentially allow for it to explain and give us what I usually like to see it as more context to a situation. In this case, though, this is pretty face value data. We're going to be showing you the top 25 kingdoms in the game right now, / as of May, I have to remember the month I'm in, for 2023. But specifically, this data was gathered on the 11th of May, which was yesterday, within about a 6 to 7 hour window between 20 and 3 to 4 UTC. Along with, we looked at all the kingdoms from the first merge kingdoms, which is SS1-2, all the way to kingdom 100 is how the data was pulled together. So just so you know kind of what the margin of error is going in. Because I already know someone will probably watch the video and say to themselves, well, boss, the numbers you're showing me right now are not what they currently are. Well, that's pretty obvious because, again, remember, the data is gathered within a window and kind of a one-time collection use or click / pull and then enter. So again, the numbers that you're going to see after watching the video are obviously going to be different. This is to reflect what the current state was during the window of time in which I gathered. All right, that's pretty much it for all the fluff. Let's go ahead and show off the goodies to see who has the biggest bread, if you know what I mean, within the game. All right, here we go. And so let's start. We're going to work this bottom up and kind of do this announcer fashion, and then I'll talk about some interesting kind of points here. So we have S27 comes in at our bubble position for number 25 at 4.67 billion. We have number 24 is S51 at 4.7 billion. S53, 4.7 billion. 5 billion, I should say. S47, 4.97 billion. S42 at 5.02 billion. S43, 5.07 billion. S23, breaking now more into our top 20, 5.18 billion. S40, 5.26 billion. S25 is 5.31 billion. S37 at 5.35 billion. Now our top 15, S45, 5.38 billion. S26, 5.42 billion. S49 is 5.50 billion. S22 is 5.67 billion. S35, 5.91 billion. Breaking into our top 10, S36 is 6.06 billion. S38, which is funny because I used to run a kingdom in Infinity Kingdom called S36. S38, 9.14 billion. S34, 7.59 billion. S31, 8.97 billion. S33, 9.47 billion. And then our top 5. Also breaking the 10 billion threshold. We have SS1-5 at 10.39 billion, SS1-3, 10.62 billion, SS1-4, 11.30 billion, and then we have at number 2, S32, which places above 3 of the merge kingdoms. Also shout out to Chizgul, the buddy, over there, who's in S32 along with a lot of others. 13.62 billion. And then the number 1 strongest kingdom in the game, and again, this is inclusive of merged and non-merged kingdoms. If you just want to apply and filter out the merged kingdoms, then you can do that and you'll kind of see where the rankings are as they were. SS1-2 is at 23.75 billion. So again, you can see that the numbers are pretty good, pretty close, right until you maybe start getting around to like the 7, 8, 9. You'll start seeing the branching, and then once you get to the top 2, that's where it really starts to spread more from 2 to 3, and then obviously the really big jump from 1 to 2. So some interesting things that I gathered from the data that I pulled here. One is that the range here is from SS1 to S53. I also want to give an honorable mention to the kingdom I started a project in, which was S65. And I specifically want just to speak to the power, right, on how close excuse me, S65, I'm still trying to recover. S65 is to the bubble position here for how old the kingdom is. Now, I should also note there was 1 or 2 other kingdoms that were really close to this, to the bubble position at 25. I unfortunately forgot the number, so that is my apologies. But again, I just wanted to show this because I thought this was interesting, just being, again, because the next highest was 53, so 65 is 12 kingdoms above that. But I just wanted to show, because of our preparation going into the kingdom, and how we were able to keep a very high level of activity and low player drop off from the beginning up to where the kingdom is now, you are able to see this number and why this number is able to be as high as it is, almost teetering and trying to break into the top 25. I just had to give an honorable shout out there. With that being said, again, like as I was mentioning, the data was collected going up to Kingdom 100. And I also think there's some really interesting things here if we look at like the ranges. So range essentially is defined by the number 1 kingdom minusing the number 7 kingdom's power. The reason why we looked at the top 7 kingdoms is because you have 7 zone 1 regions. Now, I could have made the argument for just doing the top 6 because you have 6 level 3 passes. So again, there's a couple arguments that really could be made depending on how you want to explain the data. But I'm always a fan of trying to collect trying to go as deep as I can that is within reason for the number of alliances that we account for, because the deeper you go shows more of a full picture, in my opinion. Also because of the fact that we now are getting, and we more or less know that, kingdoms are probably going to get demerged. There is more stock in your home kingdom, right? So stats like these and data like these, I would like to believe are a little bit more relevant. Now, whether or not you care to see the merge kingdom data in there from the not one, because bear in mind, the merge kingdoms are obviously and hopefully going to be stronger than a non-merge kingdom. But just because there's not a lot of kingdoms in the game, or I should say not a lot to the point of where there's a lot of solo ones, just because there's a lot of new kingdoms. There's not a lot of age, I should say that, health in length of age for kingdoms. I just thought it would be relevant, or nice, probably better yet, to include all. But then we look at some of the ranges, and I think some things that stand out is you look at SS1-2, where they have probably the highest range right now, which again is what I would refer to as kind of like the balance of the kingdom when it comes to power, right? So their gap is 4.53. The next biggest one is S32 at almost 3 billion. One of the lower ones, I think, was here at 6. I think it's this one at 626. I got to double check because that's what I had written down. It is. So you look at a kingdom like S53, right? This to me, where you have a 626 million power gap between 1 and 7, I love that. Like, I love seeing those types of numbers, and I actually have something here that I'll eventually do on a separate video where we kind of show you the most balanced kingdoms and the most imbalanced kingdoms in the game. This is, gosh, I'm just dying. Let me get some agua. Woo. Just wanted to say, I find these types of stats to be really important because I'm a big believer in seeing the health of a kingdom be as balanced as possible, because I also believe that leads to sustainability. Less player drop off, better player retention overall, and just higher overall activity within a kingdom, right? When you have alliances that are closer in power, because then no one feels as though they are not as equal or not as worthy, or that they are less than, or others are more than them. This is something I often have seen during my time playing Rock and Infinity Kingdom, where you see kingdoms that are kind of being ran by mega alliances, which basically just means you have 1 or 2 alliances that are just running away with the power because everyone's kind of, or a portion of people are funneling into the strongest. It's kind of like a Darwinism type effect, right? Survival of the fittest. And it depletes the other alliances that aren't there, because sometimes you'll get into situations where the strongest alliances just want the best stuff. They, may not necessarily share at times, and the most active and sometimes the strongest players or top players will try to work their way over there, right? It's kind of like a ladder climbing effect. I just want to work my way up the leaderboards. And so again, that just has a lot of negative impacts when you're looking at like the long-term survivability of a kingdom. And so that's what I just wanted to give a little bit of context there. It's one of the reasons I really value things like ranges and distribution ratios, something that we might show you in a future video. But then if we look at kingdoms that have, and again, this is kind of the range here for what you're seeing. So total power, we basically, to give an explanation there, we in short just kind of did a sum average from all 7 of the top 7 alliances. I just went into each kingdom and had to use a calculator and just add everything up manually. So it took a while to get to where we are with the data. There was definitely a healthy amount of time that was put into this. But for the most part, I find it very interesting when you get to see, what the range is from 1 to 7, what's the strongest alliances. And again, we'll do that as well. Those will be future videos. So anyways, with that being said, that pretty much is it. Again, I didn't foresee this being incredibly too long. I appreciate for those that are still here and listening to me ramble or, go off on some lovely tangent. Hopefully you find the information informative and or educational, or if not, just at least enjoy seeing who are the strongest kingdoms in the game right now. So that's going to be it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.